Last week was our first playoff game, and my plaque psoriasis was so itchy under all my gear. Sometimes just thinking about scratching could take me out of the moment. And then my doctor told me I could get clearer skin with a pill called Otezla.
Otezla apremilast is a prescription medicine used to treat adult patients with plaque psoriasis for whom phototherapy or systemic therapy is appropriate. Otezla can help you get clearer skin after just 4 months.
Okay, ready for the next game. Talking to my doctor about a pill was a total game changer.
Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Get medical help right away if you have trouble breathing or swallowing, swelling of the face, lips, tongue, throat, or arms. Severe diarrhea, nausea or vomiting, depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss can happen. Tell your doctor if any of these occur and if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts. Live in the moment. Ask your doctor about Otezla. Call 1-844-4-OTEZLA or visit Otezla.com for prescribing info about cost, and more.
This podcast is supported by Progressive, a leader in RV insurance. RVs are for sharing adventures with family, friends, and even your pets. So if you bring your cats and dogs along for the ride, you'll want Progressive RV insurance. They protect your cats and dogs like family by offering up to $1,000 in optional coverage for vet bills in case of an RV accident, making it a great companion for the responsible pet owner who loves to travel. See Progressive's other benefits and more when you quote RV insurance at Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Pet injuries and additional coverage and subject to policy terms.
Acura's all-new ADX, a compact SUV that isn't just built for one thing, it's precision-crafted for everything. To escape the grind with available all-wheel drive. To go with your flow with available Google built-in.
Hey Google, turn it up.
Okay, turning up the volume. And crafted to be heard with an available Bang & Olufsen premium sound system. The all-new Acura ADX, crafted to match your energy. Acura, precision-crafted performance.
Take your vibes and go, 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 go.
Google is a trademark of Google LLC.
Move your career further, faster in just 2 days with a Harvard Professional and Executive Development Program. Advance your leadership skills, craft smarter business strategies, build your network, and transform how you work and think to keep your career moving forward. You'll earn a certificate and can add Harvard to your resume with Harvard Professional and Executive Development. Learn more at professional.dce.harvard.edu/Spotify.
Hello and welcome to Islanders Anxiety from Lighthouse Hockey and the Fans First Sports Network. My name is Dan Saracini. Joining me on this Monday evening via Zencaster is my friend Michael Leboff. And Mike, it's been about a week since the Islanders announced that they had parted ways with Lou Lamoriello. We've had some names thrown around as possible replacements. The Islanders are very much in limbo right now. A couple of their Metropolitan Division rivals have joined them there in various ways. We're going to talk some shit about them in the second half. But how are you adjusting to this reality of the Islanders having no real leader right now outside of John Collins, the guy who's searching for a new general manager?
Yeah, so it's a little agitating, isn't it?
Yeah, sure.
That the process, because it happened pretty quickly, and I think, and I'm pretty sure that from what I can kind of glean from just whatever talking to people, I think the Islanders would almost wish to have the way that they made the decision back, or the way that they presented the decision back. Which is, we'll also talk about something else that happened that they probably would want back too. But I think what the point I'm saying is, like, whatever. Maybe it's time for Lou to go. That's fine. Totally explainable decision on a hockey level. But I think what they seem to have miscalculated was the way that they presented it. Like, this is Lou Lamoriello,
right,
Hockey Hall of Famer, Cold War peace settler, just an icon of American sport, really. And the Islanders, didn't renew his contract, and they didn't really, and hey, maybe Lou didn't want it this way, but like they didn't really go above and beyond to like thank Lou or make it more of a celebration of his tenure. Then it was just the same kind of, it was almost like the same statement that you'd read when a coach gets fired mid-season, right? Like very.
They didn't soften the blow. It
No.
sounded. It almost. I didn't even mention this last time when we talked. It almost sounded like Lou announced his own fire.
Right. Yes. Exactly. And maybe that was his request. We don't know. We don't know. But right. Just from what I'm hearing, sounds like the Islanders are trying to be a first class the organization. They want to be representative of the Islanders. They want to be a fans first club, fan right. forward club, and whatever. That's how they want to present themselves, I think, to the world. It wasn't first class, and it got worse as the day went on, just because it took 10 seconds for the Access Journalism all-stars to like raise their hand and be like, well, I just got I didn't get a text from Kenny Holland. I hear Kenny Holland is interested, or I hear right. so-and-so is, and what that tells me, which is why I'm agitated, is that this is not a tight ship. This is, there are loose lips sinking the ship right now, I guess, to keep along this nautical theme of a team that is named after a nautical theme. There are people talking out of school, and it seems to me very obvious that John Collins is running the search, but John Collins is also obtaining feedback from basically it's not hockey Twitter, but it feels like he's just going online and straw polling, right? It feels it's very evident that this isn't just one dude going out there, sending out his staff and being like, get me a short list of people I need to talk to, etc. It feels like he's texting people who are connected in hockey and being like, well, what do you think about this person? What do you think about that person? And these could be people from, it could be a journalist or a broadcaster or someone in another front office, but it's very clear to me that there's a lot of like opinions now that are being weighed that I just don't really want weighing in on the Islanders like this. And this is what was nice about Lou, for all his faults, was there was really a very small group of people making the decisions. Yeah. It was really one, but it wasn't like Lou Lamoriello didn't have a staff that would, have input with him. He had a small circle.
But their opinions never like got out, or it wasn't evidence that
there was one time it did, actually, if you remember. Hudson Fashing. He was fined by Christopher Lamoriello.
Forgot about that. I was right.
Yes,
I'm like, wait, did Jacques Lemaire say anything that we know about? I guess
no.
Not.
There's that, but that's the point. Is like it was Lou for better or worse in terms of his own resume. The decisions went down were his, and right now it's just the one thing I'm sure about with this GM search. I've got no idea who's going to end up being the general manager of the Islanders. But one thing I am certain of is that there's a lot of people who are not connected to the team that are not saying they're part of the search, but they're being canvassed. Which is, and you could just even tell by the kind of like the tea leaves, like the people that are popping up and being like, I hear this, I hear that, I hear this. And it's not just the Islanders writers or anyone. It's like people from different pockets, and that's not good. And I know this is what they did in their first GM search, right? When they ended up with Lou. But there's a huge difference, which was that was their they were like a year and a half into owning the team, third year, very new to the team. You've been here for, and I'm not talking about Collins, he just joined like a year ago, but Malkin and Ledecky and that regime, they've been with this team almost a decade now. They should kind of have an idea of how to drive the bus. But it almost feels like this kind of caught them off guard. They're like, oh, well, how am I supposed to run the Islanders? Like, I just bought them 8 years ago. And
it reminds me a little bit of when we first started watching them under Lane Lambert. And if you remember, they were giving up chances left and right.
Yes.
They were just absolutely a sieve. Just they could not, the goalies were absolutely under siege. And I remember you and I at one point were doing an episode, and I said, how is it possible that these guys played under Barry Trotz for 4 years, and in 2 months under this new guy have seemingly completely forgotten everything they learned under Barry Trotz? And it almost feels a little bit like what you're saying now. Like, these guys worked under Lou Lamoriello for 7 years. You'd think they would have learned how to like keep a lid on things, but apparently they haven't. They just haven't done that because they haven't been doing that yet. And the other thing too is, like you said, the access merchants and the rumor mill grifters and whatever, the fear is gone. I mean, Elliot Friedman literally talked about this on 32 Thoughts when they let Lou go, which is that he didn't want to say anything wrong because he knew Lou was going to get on his case, and he knew he didn't want to say anything that was going to upset Lou, because then he was going to hear it and he's going to calls, and it was going to make him his life a living hell, basically. I'm sure those were not Elliot's words, but like it was pretty clear that there was a fear in place of Lou, and if you made a mistake and said something he didn't like, you were going to face consequences. Those consequences are now gone. So, like you said, within minutes of his being relieved, Darren Dreger is out here with Ken Holland, and now we got to fucking hear about Ken Holland all the time. And I don't know if the owners are listening to this, or if John Collins or anybody's listening to this. Please, I'm begging you. Nobody here wants Ken Holland. We just don't want the guy. Like, no offense. Nobody wants Ken Holland here. Please, unless he's bringing 2009 Nicholas Lidstrom and Henrik Zetterberg with him, we don't want, but his name is out there because one guy said it. He wants to get back into the game. Well, okay, good for him. But yeah, so all those guardrails are now removed, basically, and we're stuck with what's left. Yeah, basically.
Yeah, and this is and I don't want this to be misconstrued with complaining about the move. Like, of course not. I was sad that Lou is fired because I loved Lou Lamoriello, the character, and loved that he was an Islander. But I'm not saying that it was an indefensible decision from a hockey level. Like, it made perfect sense on paper. The problem is, now looking back on it, the more and more I think about it, the more and more it seems like it was just, maybe rash is the wrong word, but they didn't get ahead of it enough.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do that with every decision you make in sports, but when you're moving on from someone like Lou, you have to, just because of how much he was in charge of and how much he controlled both internally and externally for your team. And this really feels like a decision that they didn't do that. Like, they just kind of were like, we just tell him he's not coming back and we'll go find another guy, right? Simple as that. And it should be, when you think about it, right? That should be as simple as, but the context here is you're dealing with Lou Lamoriello. Like, it's
right.
I don't, this, it's a very easy analogy to make, but it's like when you're watching a mob movie and you're getting the point of view from the police, and they're like, we can't take this guy out because then there'll be a power vacuum, right?
Right.
And like all the other different crime families will come in, and it'll just make it be like that guy kind of holds everything in place.
Yeah. Right. Well, the guy who would have gotten in front of it was the guy they fired, basically.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And so it's crazy, because how did you not, if you knew this decision was a possibility, which it seemed like the team did, if I think it was Elliot Friedman reported they were thinking about doing it in December and then again in a couple months later or something. Like, this was obviously on the table, and nobody, unless it was John Collins was the guy that they were like, hey, you want to own the team? You're just going to have to be the one to fire Lou Lamoriello. Like, maybe it was, and then he just hasn't done the best job at it. But to me, it just feels like, after 7 years of not having to worry about this kind of bullshit, you wonder why we had so much time to spin off a podcast about Justin Papineau and Randy Robitaille, and we had so much time to do little vignettes on the Maple Leafs media and the Penguins media, etc. It's because there wasn't this bullshit to take up the first 20-30 minutes of every episode, where we're like, what the hell are they doing? But yeah, now for the first time in, I don't know, almost a decade, you're like, what the hell are they doing? Which was a question we used to ask about the Islanders almost incessantly.
Sure.
from the second you woke up to the second you went to bed during a hockey season, what the hell are they doing? Now that it's back, we're back to what the hell are they doing? And it's just to be it. And here's the other thing, right? Like, I'm not trying to make a mountain out of a molehill, and hopefully it just turns out to be a molehill. But this is either like the beginning of it, of these kind of decisions, or they've kind of already been like, oh shit, like we just had 2 swings and misses in the front end of 1 week. Like maybe what do we need to change? What do we need to adjust to fix that? And maybe they do get better at this, but for right now, it given my kind of natural, the way my dial is turned when it comes to the Islanders, I'm always going to veer towards. I'm a little scared that I don't know if anyone knows what the hell they're doing right now.
No, I think that's fair. I think that's fair to wonder if they know what the hell they're doing, because this is a huge decision, a number of huge decisions. And as you said, and we're going to get to them towards the end of this first half, they've already made one decision that has become incredibly unpopular with the fan base. And it's a different arena of the decision, but at the same time, it's a decision that hasn't gone over well. So I think you're right to wonder about this. We're going to talk about some of those candidates whose names have come up. Again, we're going to talk about the other decision, and then we're going to talk some shit about some Metro teams in the second half. But reminder that we are on Patreon, patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety. Membership gets you ad-free episodes, bonus podcasts, written posts, and a whole lot more. And you can get all of that this week if you sign up at patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety. So we do this stuff all year long. So don't think just because it's the off season, you shouldn't sign up for the Patreon. You should. Patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety, because we got stuff going on there all the time. Okay. I want to talk about a couple of the names that came out, not Ken Holland, because we did talk about him a little bit last time.
Kenny. We're on.
Sorry,
Kenny. Kenny, yeah.
I will never call him Kenny ever.
I can't. That's like the tell on how they know. Yeah. If someone's kill Kenny Holland, like shut the hell up.
Yeah, no thanks, please. I'm good. We already had sort of a Ken Holland type. Like, we don't really need just Lou Lamoriello with more hair and 10 years younger, please. But there are a couple of names that came out that we didn't talk about on our episode last week about the whole Lamoriello split. One of them was a guy named Ryan Martin, who has been working with the Rangers, who's been an assistant GM there for a while. And then a couple of days later, a name came out courtesy of Andrew Gross's Twitter, Kate Madigan, who's been an assistant GM for the Devils for the last 3 years. And then a couple of days later, I forget who tweeted this out, I apologize, the person mentioned Alexandra Mendricki, who has been with Seattle the entire time they've been there. She was with Minnesota for a number of years. I thought all of these were really interesting in the sense that they're all younger people, but they're all people that have had experience. I mean, again, Mendricki has been in the NHL for probably almost a decade now, doing data analysis and then being assistant GM in Seattle for a while. Madigan, there was a whole story on her from NHL.com. She's been with the Devils for a very long time. She's young. She's been an AGM for a couple of years, again, about 3 years, but knows her way around. And apparently Ryan Martin has been just about everything for the Rangers. And I think he worked someplace else as well before that. So these are all really young people, sort of the antithesis of the Ken Holland types that are also getting, the Yarmos, guys like that get thrown around as well. Marc Bergevin was the guy we threw around last week too. So in addition to being like, where is this going? You're starting to get these sort of factions forming of like, well, we can get somebody really young. That would be really cool. So, I mean, somebody who's got a real fresh perspective here, or we can get somebody who's a general manager we've seen before, which, let's be honest, most of the time in the NHL, they are going to veer towards that. But then the other thing is with the younger people, my big fear, it's funny. You're afraid of like, what are these guys thinking? My fear is almost like, what are these prospective candidates thinking? These people, who might be coming in for an interview, what are they saying about the Islanders? And my guess is that the younger people are telling the guys, telling John Collins and maybe the owners by extension, you need to get rid of everybody and tear this sucker down and start over from the beginning again. Whereas I could see a Marc Bergevin or Jarmo Kekalainen coming in here and being like, yeah, we got a couple of defensemen, we'll be all right. So you got both of these, and I don't know which way they want to go or which way any of these things are going. And this is more nerve wracking than when I've had job interviews. It's like almost like, what's going on in these interviews? What are they saying about the Islanders? Because you can't convince me that I mean, maybe outside of the Devils and Rangers people have seen them, but you can't convince me that anybody who's worked for the Seattle Kraken has put a whole lot of time into watching the Islanders. No offense, but it just doesn't work that way. So that's kind of where I'm at. Have any of these people kind of piqued your interest? Again, we don't know. When somebody says like they're going to have a chance to interview, I don't know what that means. Yeah. Like, oh, you missed your chance. Sorry. It's like a bus. It just left and you weren't on it, Like, I don't know what that means. But, seeing these names connected to the Islanders is in a way exciting because I hope it means that, we might get some new blood in here. But at the same time, I'm not stupid. Like, I know how the NHL works. And chances are some old guy with some friends in high places is going to end up getting the job. And we're going to be like, oh, really? But I don't know. What do you think of these names that are getting thrown around? Has anybody sort of piqued your interest a little bit?
My kind of guess here is that the once again, like the Islanders fired Lou Lamoriello. It's very different from firing Brad Treliving or something because Lou is in charge of basically everything. So there's a lot of positions they need to fill. Yeah. It's there's Lou has like a crew. Like he's got a crew and who knows if they haven't really said anything about those folks. The guy who goes over in Russia and grabs all the Russian guys, just the fixers, loose fixers. So I do think that part of this is they need to fill out roles, and I think it makes sense for them to interview folks who are pretty high up in other organizations to say, if we bring in a president of hockey ops, would you be open to being the GM? Or
I want to get into the president of hockey ops question in a few minutes too.
Would you be the assistant GM here, at like maybe an elevated role? I don't know how it works. If there's like a number 1 and number 2 assistant, maybe Mandrycky is like in charge of just data science over there, or like analytics or something, and maybe they would tell her, you wouldn't just be in charge of that. You'd have a lot more responsibilities. Who knows? But that's my guess here. Is like that they're that some of these folks whose names popped out are for roles like that. It does sound like, I do think the one that I think has a legitimate shot would be Kate Madigan, just because she's been with New Jersey for a while, and it's a team that's close. As you said, like this is a team that's close to the Islanders. They compete directly with the Islanders. So you'd imagine that she would have like a pretty robust opinion on the way forward for them. I'm sure that she's watched the Islanders blow leads to the Devils. I was like, what the hell are they doing with that guy? So there's that. But like you, I have no indication about where the search is going. Right now, what I'm kind of focusing on is because I know who I don't want, but I don't. Right. It's a weird thing where it's like, I know I don't want this person, but I've got no idea about how, I don't know what Ryan Martin would do as a GM of the Islanders, or Scott Gordon, or not Scott Gordon. Jeez. We know how Scott Gordon would do. Like I've got no idea, like what, if they, I have no opinion on what would make a good GM for the Islanders, but I do have an opinion on what would make a bad GM for the Islanders. So I'm more focused on A, hopefully those folks don't come, and B, how they're going about it, because I'm nervous already about the manner of it. I'm nervous about the stuff that's already come out, and how it's come out, and who's got their teeth into it now. I mean, then there's like a ridiculous Barzell rumor coming out, and we're just swatting these things away. And I talked about like the little fires everywhere last episode, and how when you're Lou Lamoriello's running your team, there really are just never fires getting out. Sometimes you wish there were some fires, but you're just like, everything's run really tidily. So that's more my focus now. It's like how it's going, and the in that, because it's just not been promising so far, and I can't like power rank the potential candidates or anything like that. I just don't want. I want them to kind of get their act together.
For sure. No, it's still too early, and I mean, we haven't heard of anybody actually flying into Republic Airport or whatever to get their interview on, or John Collins is flying out to wherever to talk to somebody who's Matthew Darsh, to talk to him. He's flying to Tampa to talk to Matthew Darsh, and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, we're still too early, but I do like that this stuff is sort of seeping out in a way, but at the same time, I don't want it to get anybody's hopes up, my hopes up. And I'm with you. Like, I would rather this be done sort of quietly. And frankly, I would have rather been done before they got rid of Lou. And it's like, okay,
right.
we're not bringing Lou back, and this person's now our new general manager. Then we could be like, oh, okay.
Right.
Unless that person was Ken Holland, in which case that would have been like, what? But you did bring up the idea of a president of hockey operations, and we didn't really talk about this that much on the last episode too. I kind of want to throw this out there because, again, the idea of a younger general manager is very appealing to me because we just had the oldest general manager, right? So why not try somebody younger? Try some different blood and some new, viewpoints here. But this is a big job, and especially if somebody's never been in the big chair before. I've watched enough episodes of Star Trek to know that sitting in that captain's chair is not always easy. And so maybe having a president of hockey operations above that person to come in at the same time would be a good idea, I kind of thought, because, again, Lou did both of these jobs himself and every job himself for the last 7 years. And I was thinking about options for president because, to me, not that the team president is like a figurehead position, like they have actual roles. They go to board of governors meetings and that kind of stuff. And it's not necessarily like a PR role either, but they need to be good at sort of messaging the direction of the franchise, kind of shepherding the franchise, maybe being like, the deciding vote in certain cases if, we're trying to decide which direction to go in. And I had a couple of names that popped up. These are literally just people I pulled out of thin air that I thought maybe had a chance at something like this, and like kind of how, trying them on for size and seeing how they would fit. The first one I thought of, really the first guy who came to mind, is a guy who's tried this role on a couple of times before and didn't last very long either time. So maybe he just doesn't want to do it anymore. But that would be Pat LaFontaine. Like, we didn't bring this up last time. He was a committee member of the Islanders back with the Charles Wong era before Garth Snow was hired. That did not last very long. He was the team president in Buffalo for one season before he stepped away and went back to his charity work. So might not be, for him, but I do believe he lives on the island. He's obviously always had a connection to the Islanders. He's back, with the organization a couple of years now. And I think he knows Ledecky and has, hung out with them and stuff like that. And I don't know, to me, he would kind of be perfect. Again, I don't want to make it sound like the president of a hockey team doesn't do anything, but like, I feel like he would be a great spokesman for the team who understands the heritage, understands, what fan base might want, and can message these kind of moves to, people outside of the, and obviously he has all the cachet and the, metal, the decoration you could possibly ever want somebody to have. I mean, who's going to argue with Pat LaFontaine, right? I mean, would something like that make sense to you? Like hiring somebody like Pat LaFontaine to be team president?
I think that's like the kind of person I want in that role more than anything, because the one thing that scares me about having two people is that obviously friction would develop, right? Like if you bring in Kenny Holland, who I'm hearing is interested in the job. If you bring in Kenny Holland to be the president of hockey operations, and then you bring in like a first timer, I don't know if Kenny Holland, who's interested in the job, is going to be getting along. They're going to see eye to eye.
That's true.
Whatever. Right. However, someone like Pat LaFontaine, who's not really he's not like a front office lifer. He's more of a figurehead, kind of like what JD was.
Yes, 100%. Right.
And obviously, look, no love lost for JD here, but that's kind of the attitude I would look for. Someone who's there to be more of a kind of a sounding board and has a connection to the organization. Who's saying, if Kate Madigan or Matthew Darsh or some other person comes in, and Glenn Metropolitan, if he comes in and is the GM for the first time, and they're like, I want to do this, and then you can have Pat LaFontaine be like, ooh, I don't know if that's a good idea,
Right.
That's just not how things go with Islanders and Islander fans, and they're and such. So I that's kind of the type of person I'd want in the role, someone who can be the kind of bridge between the team culture and like the island identity and this new person, whoever it is.
Definitely. Yeah. So that's kind of what I was thinking too. I'll throw another name out there that we were talking about last time, Miro Shatan.
Yeah.
Imagine a combination of Pat LaFontaine and Miro Shatan. First of all, how great on a line would those two guys have been?
Yeah.
They just miss each other.
Here's a question for you before we continue.
Yeah.
Who scores more goals this season? Miro Shatan, Hudson Fasching, or Ilya Sorokin? If they played the same amount of games. Let's put Miro at the same amount of games as Hudson Fasching this season.
God. Miro is probably what, 50, 55, 56, something like that? Yeah.
I think he probably scores 6.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he probably scores 6 and then he makes 10 saves on Fasching too. But yeah, so yeah, no, I think we're on the same page. I mean, LaFontaine would be perfect in this role, I think. Another guy, I was talking to another friend of mine about this, and he was saying that, it'd be interesting. What about like Johnny Boychuk? Right. He's been around the Islanders for a long time. Now listen, we love Johnny Boychuk. We have loved Johnny Boychuk ever since that fateful day in 2014 when they acquired Johnny Boychuk. I would love nothing more than for Johnny Boychuk to be kind of like a front-facing member of the Islanders. I just don't know if he's kind of got the juice to be named a team president yet. He never struck me as sort of like the front office type. But then again, every time they show him an Islanders game, he's sitting in a box with Lou Lamoriello. So maybe he wants to be. I don't know. Like, what do you think of Boychuk in that position?
Yeah, I love it. And there's no more endorsement of, we kind of had the talk about like Islanders and personality and Lou and personality. Like there wasn't a bigger personality on the Islanders for that kind of stint, Boychuk, 2015 to the end of the bubble,
right?
Than Boychuk. Like he was the personality on that team. And who like immediately did Lou snuggle up with after he retired was Johnny Boychuk, right? Like, so I do think that I mean, look, as I said, I have no idea what will make a good GM for this team. I think I have an idea of what will make a bad GM, and I don't think Johnny Boychuk would make a terrible GM as long as he has like support around him.
Of course,
this is now like 4 years that he's been in the front office with the Islanders, and 4 years where he's been nestled with Lou Lamoriello. Like that's a pretty good idea of like how to learn how to deal with agents and such. Like, so I don't. It sounds crazy because you're just assuming that because he was, a kind of shoot from the hip, happy-go-lucky player that he wouldn't translate well into GM.
Right.
Look around the league.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah.
Like all these guys, all the former players. I didn't think to myself, oh man, there's Danny Briere.
Right.
Look at him, silky and smooth, and scoring twice every time he plays the Islanders on the power play. He would score and be like, that guy's going to be a GM one day. I
remember Don Sweeney when he was like a depth defenseman for the Bruins for a long time, and he's been a GM for like twice as long as he was a player. I feel like
that's the funniest part about the whole thing is everyone's, I don't know if so and so can do it. Like Bill Guerin is out there. Like
that's
Bill
true.
Guerin's like cursing out referees and everyone's thinking, oh, this guy's a great. Pat Verbeek is a really tough negotiator.
God, how could I forget?
Yeah,
that's right.
It's So I don't think it. I mean, and then you look at the guys who everyone assumed would do a great job, and Steve Yzerman is currently tanking the Red Wings. This guy's gonna be a great GM, and so I don't know. It's who knows. That's what my point is. Like I don't know at all, but I would if Johnny Boychuk, if they announced tomorrow that Johnny Boychuk was taking over the dual role. I'd be like, hell yeah, that's fun. Like, let's do it. A little nervous, but I'd be more nervous for a lot of other people over Johnny Boychuk. And I mean that about a lot of other folks who kind of fall into that, like Johnny Boychuk class, let's say, like, the Eric Cairnses and of the world, like those kind of guys who've been around the team for a while. Would I trust that they know how to, exploit a salary cap loophole like Lou Lamoriello? No, but
well, they would have a team of people around them, that would be there for that kind of stuff. Because Cairns isn't a guy we mentioned either, and he's been working with the Islanders for like
forever.
15 years now, right?
Here's the thing, like if the Islanders said, oh man, if all of a sudden tomorrow Darren Drager comes out and says, yeah, the Islanders are deciding between Kenny Holland and some guy named Eric Cairns, who was vicious against my Maple Leafs in 2002. Like, I would be like, I would take Cairns all day long because I just, I don't really know if I want. Or Peter Chiarelli. Like, you kidding me?
Oh, please, God, no. Thank you. I was trying to remember somebody else I didn't want.
Right.
Chiarelli was the guy.
Right. If it came out that the last three people in contention were Peter Chiarelli, Eric Cairns, and Johnny Boychuk.
Right.
I mean, hell, if it was Jan Denis, I'd be like, give it a Denis. Give it a Denis. As long as it's not Chiarelli, just give it a Denis.
Right. Yeah. Maybe Wade Dublowitz will come off the rig.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's funny because at first I was like, I don't know about that. But, now that you've mentioned it, that would be kind of wild. I don't know if he would do both roles, though. That's the one thing. I think he would probably.
Who, Boychuk?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I think, I don't know which one. I don't know which one he'd be more suited for, honestly.
Right, exactly. But, I mean, if he's got a team around him, I don't see why he couldn't do either one, I suppose. But the last one, I'm going to throw one more at you. And again, I'm just pulling these names out of thin air and just people that I'm kind of just thinking.
But they're also I think they're more representative of an idea than the actual person. Right.
Right. So the other one I thought about is a guy we talked about towards the end of the Islanders' actual season. And I was like, these guys want, and you said it before, they want to be seen as a first-class organization. They want to do all this stuff and maybe, increase the profile of the Islanders and make them a more notable team after years in sort of like this Lou imposed, cone of silence. Well, who would draw more eyeballs to the New York Islanders and give them more gravitas and station in NHL circles than naming as your team president one Wayne Gretzky, who was not long ago at UBS Arena talking about how much respect he has for the Islanders and Mr. Torrey and Mr. Arbor and the Coliseum and all that kind of stuff. This is not a GM job. It's not a coaching job. We don't want Wayne coaching him. We've been down that road already. But you name Wayne Gretzky your team president. Obviously he never played for the Islanders. He played against them many, many years and 2 Stanley Cup Finals, obviously three playoff series altogether. People forget that first one. But I don't think anybody would be like, what are you doing here, Wayne? That would sort of be, on one hand, that would be kind of
It'd
funny.
Be amazing. It'd be hilarious.
Right. On the other hand, you'd be like, really? This is happening?
Yeah, this would be, it would rock for, who knows how it works out, but it would rock because all of a sudden everyone would shut up again. It would everyone, it would be so funny.
Because then Gretzky can get on the phone with your LeBruns and your Dragons and these guys, and they're going to just take whatever he gives them and, trumpet it up to the mountaintop, basically.
Precisely. Yeah. And I'm actually really happy you said it because, there was a little twinkle in Wayne's eye that day. Like it almost sounded like he had an ulterior motive. But it's, I would be totally on board with it. For that position, for the hilarity of it, the ripple effect of it,
right?
The absolute just seismic kind of shockwave it would send around the sphere. But put him at the top of my list up there too. I think as I was saying right before you said that one, the Boychucks and LaFontaines are kind of representative of the idea of an idea. Wayne Gretzky is representative of just being Wayne Gretzky. So this would be a different scenario where I'd actually be stumping for Wayne Gretzky.
Right.
I don't even care if he just shows up once a year, but if he was just the president of the Islanders, it would be so funny.
Well, he'd have to move out of LA,
right,
and live on the island, which would obviously be a big thing. But one
there's
thing
there's golf here.
I'm sure he would love it here for sure, and he could go back to LA in the summertime, when the season's over and everything. But I also feel like of these people that we've talked about, even as much as like LaFontaine and Boychuk are known as pretty easygoing guys, I feel like Gretzky probably would be the least likely to be like, nope, we're doing this because I'm Wayne Gretzky. I feel like he would probably be the least kind of, strenuous there. But that being said, he would know that the team, he would know the area the least of the three of them. But then again, maybe not, because he did play here for a long time. So it occurred to me as I was thinking about this season and everything, I was like, man, how wild would that be to just be like, yeah, Wayne Gretzky's our team president now. And it might not last that long. I mean, JD has been in Columbus. JD is obviously like the perfect kind of example of this type of scenario. And, we've talked about this. I'm pretty sure he just recently retired, but I'm pretty sure Jim Lights was the guy in Dallas for a long time, even over Jim Nill. We talk about Jim Nill a lot, but like Jim Lights was there as soon as they moved from Minnesota, basically. And he was sort of the team president and did a lot of that kind of stuff too. So I thought, like, I think I might like the idea of an older team president, an established person to kind of message things and steer the organization in a way that, Long Islanders would like, obviously would be successful as well. And then having a younger GM with some new ideas and some maybe more data-driven ideas, stuff that's not like, got to cut your hair or, but we have drummers over here and clarinet players over here, that kind of thing, but I thought about some names and I was like, that'd be awesome. But then again, if they do this, this opens up the floodgates for more Peter Chiarellis and Kenny Hollands and all these types of guys. So I don't know. I think it'd be kind of a fun.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun. I mean, obviously LaFontaine would be my pick because I just love Pat LaFontaine. So I don't know. That'd be great to see. But then again, there's other guys too. I mean, who knows what people want. I mean, Dennis Potvin, I remember, this is another thing I was thinking about too. Dennis Potvin for years was angling for a GM position when Mike Milbury was the GM. I guess those days are over. I don't know what he's doing these days, but I wonder if he would be another one to be like team president. Man, that's another guy. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to argue with Dennis Potvin? Like, you're Pierre LeBrun. The phone rings. Oh shit, it's Dennis Potvin. Like, what are you
right.
What are you going to say to this guy? Hey, Dennis, how's it going? What do you want me to say? Okay, I'm going to say that. Thanks, and that's it.
I think those would be the kind of the types that would be fun to have in that role, right? Whether it's LaFontaine or the Boychuk or the Gretzky type. As we keep saying, like the abrasive Kenny Holland. I've been in this game longer than you've been alive.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of.
6 years for Justin Holl, kind of.
Right.
I'm
Peter Chiarelli being like, I want to Stanley Cup with the Boston Bruins.
Right. Trade me that Reinhardt guy.
Yeah.
I don't. That's the fear here, and but it's what it does. What part of the kind of leaking and or like the lack of messaging is that I don't really know. Like, nobody really knows the direction that this is going to go in,
right?
Because it feels like there are too many cooks to begin with.
Yes.
So it feels like they're they're going in this president of hockey ops, a figurehead, and paired with some young dynamo or because that seems to be like one narrative out there. The other narrative is that the Kenny Holland type who could do both roles or whatever, and then there's they might just get one job, one general manager, and you'll hear like Kevin Week's name, and they're so the names are so scattershot, and there's no like kind of cohesive what they're looking for, and that's part of what's the issue here, is because I truly believe that there's just a lot of people whose input is being weighed here. So maybe there could be someone out there. I mean, hell, they could have called Wayne Gretzky himself. Honestly, like they could have. I remember their last listening tour. For some reason, the name Luc Robitaille sticks out in my head. I feel like they spoke to Luc Robitaille, and it wasn't even to interview him. It was like to ask him about someone else.
Well, that was the big arena thing, I remember.
Right.
They spent a lot of time in Detroit, again, like Little Caesars, like looking at that area. But.
And it is a good thing to, of course, canvas the field for certain things. I would say an arena is certainly one of them, but this is different because everyone's just going to have their guy. Like, and if you can't read the room like that, if you can't know that if you're calling Darren Dreger, you're going to hear about Kenny Holland and you're going to hear about Paul Marner. And if you call, if you call CJ, he's going to tell you about some young Seuss boy from Sault Ste. Marie.
Yeah.
But so if you don't have that kind of knowledge already, it's a little frightening because everybody's got a skin in the game. Hell, if they called you, you'd be like Pat LaFontaine, right? Like you should consider Pat LaFontaine, and me, I'd be, I'd go towards like the Boychuk types because like those are the guys I want to see, not who I think could be the best for the Islanders. Because hell, I don't know that. Like if you're calling Darren Dreger and be like, who's the best fit for the Islanders? buddy, I gotta tell you, I don't think Darren Dreger can name 10 Islanders right now. Like it's just how this works.
He's going to name the guys he's sitting next to on the TSN Insider table at the free agent frenzy.
Yeah, you know who Kelly Hrudey likes. He always tells me, Kelly, who's the guy you like again?
Yeah,
but that's what's scary more than anything here. And so and look, we talked about last episode that the idea of trust and how many. So maybe this is all just my, PTSD with this team speaking out, and I'm being irrational. But we said it right. The Islanders over the last 30 years have had like 4 or 5 trustworthy people in big positions in that span. So I don't think that, John Collins, hey, maybe he turns out to do a great job here, but has he earned our trust as fans to make this decision correctly? No. And I would hope that he would be able to say, no, I haven't, because he hasn't done it yet. And so no, I don't trust him as far as I can throw him when it comes to like this, this kind of thing. And hopefully he proves me wrong and knocks it out of the park. But
I don't think that's crazy to say he hasn't earned their trust, since when it was announced that he was leading the GM search, a lot of people were like, who the hell is John Collins? Like that's a pretty good sign that we don't really know this guy and we're not going to trust him. But that's a perfect segue to get to our second topic here. Talking about trust, talking about reading the room, that kind of stuff. The Islanders did make another announcement last week in regards to their radio team. And the announcement was that they were letting go of longtime radio announcer Chris King, longtime color commentator Greg Picker, and eventually, I think a day or two later, it was announced that they were going to be going to a simulcast scenario. A lot of teams do this around the NHL. The Stars have been doing this for years. I think the Kings may do it too, where basically if you listen to the radio feed, you'll just get Brendan and Butch. This has obviously not gone over well at all. The outrage is very real and very loud. I thought Arthur Staple put it pretty well in an article he wrote at The Athletic at the bottom. It was another Lamoriello article, but it was at the bottom. And he said, there's a reason why teams go to the simulcasting. It's because radio in 2025 is kind of a bad beat. It's rough, and it's always going to be a money loser for teams. And so the simulcasting makes sense from like a financial standpoint. It's not popular, but you can kind of understand it. The problem is that this isn't just a financial decision. This is a people decision. And this team has decided to let 2 very long-standing people, 2 very hardworking people, and 2 very well-liked people go in just out of the clear blue sky. And it bothered me. It bothered you. I'll be honest with you guys. I'm not saying this just to toot our own horn or anything, but we were supposed to record Country Club Atmosphere for the Patreon last week, and we were going to record on Thursday. And frankly, neither of us was in the mood to do that because we couldn't believe that Kinger and Greg had been let go, because it didn't make any sense. We've had Greg on Weird Islanders. He has been at the job forever. Don't let the baby face fool you. He knows this team inside and out. He's worked incredibly hard to get to where he is. You and I have talked to him personally. He's a super nice guy, super smart. And this just really didn't make a ton of sense. And then as far as Chris King goes, I have been listening to this man call games on the radio since I was in college. I can picture myself sitting in my car in the parking lot of the Barnes & Noble on Sunrise Highway in Massapequa on my food break, which was about 15 minutes, if I remember correctly, listening to the Islanders and listening to Chris King call those games. And I get that his style isn't for everybody, but this guy, I've said this before on this show, this man has seen more Islanders losses than any other human on this planet. And in a lot of cases, somebody seeing that much defeat and disappointment would turn into an axe murderer. But Kinger, who everybody calls Kinger, I wouldn't be surprised if his wife and his kids call him Kinger, is literally the nicest guy on the planet. You will never meet a nicer guy than Chris King. And I know I'm sounding glib. This is how I do when I get upset about stuff. These guys are assets and resources for this team. And I get the idea to move to a simulcast. It saves money. Okay, fine, whatever. But to let these guys go makes no sense. These are resources. These guys love this team almost more than anybody. These guys know more about this team and its history and its current players than almost anybody. You can't find another spot in the organization for these two guys? You're kidding me. Greg already does the podcast, the Talking Isles podcast, which is terrific, by the way. He does it with our friend Corey. Like, that right there should have been, okay, why don't we do this? Why don't you do another podcast? Have Kinger do like videos for YouTube and like Islanders history stuff. Make him a team historian. Do something. Just to fire these guys just doesn't make any sense. Just to cut costs? Really? Is this a cost worth cutting? Obviously it's not, because people are fucking pissed off about this, and they should be. I'm pissed off about this, and I'm not even the one who got let go. Like, you're pissed off about this, and we're just sitting here doing what we always do. And it's just, there are petitions out there to bring these guys back. Bring them back. Give them another position in the organization. They love this team. It's not right that they be let go because some spreadsheet said that, it was going to save you guys some money. I mean, come on, you spent $1 billion on an arena. Really? You're going to let these two guys go? Come on. Obviously, this happened a week ago. I'm still upset about it. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And I know you're upset about it too.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of coloring the rest of, what I was kind of talking about before. About trust and the way that this whole thing is being conducted, which is not so, like, yeah, Greg is a friend. I cherish our conversations. They're always a lot of fun. If you think that, the name drops that I throw out here on the podcast are ridiculous and superfluous, that's fine. But it's partly because I'm sitting there all day talking about these kind of guys with folks like you and Greg Picker, to pass the time. And but putting that aside, this is an absolute, and I'm sorry, saying putting Greg and Chris's feelings aside for 1 second and just focusing on the fan perspective. It's a slap in the face to the fans. Like, it is. It's like do you know one person who didn't enjoy the Islanders radio call? Like, maybe, like you said, like, Chris King is a totally unique brand of play-by-play, especially in this modern era when you have to like go grind your way through calling Frisco minor league baseball or the Allen Americans to like work your way up, like, which are Alan Feuring's doing right now. He's doing a great job, and that's the way it is now. Like, Chris King, to me, it almost feels like Chris King just showed up at Nassau Coliseum one day and said to whoever was in charge, I guess was at 97, whether it was Spano or whoever, was just like, hey, do you guys have any openings for like radio broadcaster? And they probably looked at him like, yeah, actually we do. Like, what do you know? Like, what do you know about the team? And he's like, yeah, I'm a big Islander fan. I was just up there in section 319 and for the first period, and I realized, hey, you guys might need a play-by-play guy. Here's my resume. And they took it and they're like, yep, he's in charge, and just like put him there, and that was it. And that there's something very old world sports and very Islanders about, and I know that's not how it happened, but I'm saying, like, there's something very nostalgic. This is, they'll never make him like this anymore. To Chris King and the way he calls a game. Yeah. And I mean that in it's all praise. I think it's such a unique listening experience. It's such an Islanders listening experience. Yeah. He could be calling
Art called them like the mom and pop feeling for the team, which is very Islanders basically.
And Chris King, like you said, 1998, right? That means not only has he seen some terrible teams, some brutal losses, some absolutely lost seasons by Thanksgiving, but he's also been part of cut costs in other ways where they were probably like, hey, Chris, we're going to need you to not only are you the play-by-play guy, but we need a massage therapist for this game or something. You got to fill a couple other roles here. Right. So he's probably seen some shit in that regard. Yeah. But the point is, like, these two guys were part of the furniture. Everybody enjoyed it. There was nothing better than flipping on the Islanders radio broadcast after a win, driving home, whether it be from the Coliseum or from UBS, and hearing the Chris King calls of like the highlights. And you're like, God damn it, Chris King just got absolutely lathered up for that Shane Prince goal that made it 6-1 Islanders, and right. It's just great. It was an asset. It was a joy to listen to. These two guys I was just very happy that they were Islanders and right. Are Islanders, and they're our guys. There's something comforting about listening to them. There's something comforting about knowing that the team employed them and kind of saw what we see, which is like, look, this is a very different kind of broadcast. It's not buttoned up. It's not Brendan Burke and, getting everyone's name right or anything like that. It's this is very mom and pop, like you said. And I thought the Islanders saw and appreciated that in that value that it added. So to just pull the rug out from these two guys for no good reason. It wasn't like they weren't doing a good job. They also weren't traveling with the team. So it's not like they're like saving all this money.
Right.
Who knows how much they're actually saving on it, but it's definitely, I think we can both be pretty confident that this is not going to be the difference between the Islanders signing Mitch Marner and the Islanders not signing Mitch Marner, right? Like this is a total spreadsheet move. It's a cowardly. The way that it was handled was pretty cowardly. Very. And this is what I'm getting at. Like this is the Lou situation on an island. Okay, like you let the guy go. I don't think the messaging was great. I don't think the way that you handle his departure for a legend of the game was spot on. Maybe it was something you had to wrap up quickly. Fine. And then the next day it comes out, not even from you, that these guys have been let go. There's no, thank you. By the way, these guys, Greg Picker and Chris King are just in different roles now. There's none of that, obviously. It was classless and a mistake. And as you said, like even I'm rooting like hell that they just say we boned this one up and we're gonna go back to the radio.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they already did it. Like they already did this, so it's sinister. It feels sinister already. Right. And as you said, there are other teams doing this, and that's what makes it cowardly. Is so many, and this isn't just in hockey, but in sports. I mean, we're kind of seeing it with the playoffs, with the way like TNT and ESPN handle the broadcast.
Yeah,
they
didn't travel.
They don't travel. Because you don't matter as a fan. How many times have I said that? Like we don't matter. The individual fan experience doesn't matter. And that's one. It's one thing when like a national rights holder, $1 billion corporation is doing it because whatever. What are you gonna do? But when your team is doing it, then it starts to feel a little bit betrayal-y. And I'm, as you said, like we were supposed to do something last week. We didn't do it because I was really mad about. Yeah. I'm really mad at the Islanders. I'm still mad. I hope that comes through, and I hope that we're obviously not the only ones who feel this way. Right. But I hope that the more and more they realize like how mad they just made everyone, the more and more they realize, oh shit, these aren't folks to be trifled with. Like it's a small fan base. If you turn off 100 Islander fans, it's like a sizable chunk of your fan base that you just pissed off. Right. So, it's
a day after they made everybody mostly happy. Like there wasn't really anybody too upset that Lou was let go. Like with all due respect, everybody's like, yes, it was true. Time. Thank you for everything, but it was time. And then literally the next day, it's like, yeah, we're doing this, and everybody's like, what the fuck are you guys doing? What are you doing? Like people got more mad about that than they did about the Lou thing, like because that is, like you said, it's cowardly. It's out of the blue. It's a cost cutting measure that serves no purpose whatsoever. And, it's not that like, Brendan and Butch are going to do a bad job on the radio. The Islanders tried this. And one of the funniest voices I heard on this whole thing was Howie Rose. Who was like, yeah, we tried the simulcast thing, and he purposely did such a bad job that they ended it after 1 year, and they went back to the radio booth, which might have been how Kinger got the job in the first place. But I mean, Howie came out about this. Alan Hahn said something about this online. I mean, people have come out of the woodwork to say that this is wrong. Art Staple, obviously Brendan, like all these people. Yeah,
those are industry people who are like, they're obviously going to stand up for their industry like brethren. But the fact that it's almost unanimous amongst fans that this was just a stupid, and also they're not hiding the fact that like what the motivation behind the decision was. Like you're gonna come out and say, oh, we're firing the radio broadcasters because we need to save money. The day after you fired the GM and like there's all this talk about the guy, everyone's a little shook because of attendance and all this. Like, yeah, that's a real good vote of confidence for the rest of us to look forward to this summer and to come back to the arena. We're saving money. Like that's the slogan for 2025. There was some really good Islander slogans over the years. Whether the We're All Islander ones that stuck, the This Is Islander Country, all that kind of stuff. But right now, the only one I can think for 2025, 2026 is balancing the budget. Like we're back. We're gonna focus on getting the budgets and our books in order, and then we'll worry about winning some games. But
yeah, that's exactly the message you want to send.
And I don't even know yet, and I don't even know if this is related. But I think we asked a couple episodes to go in the regular season that the Islanders were like, was there an alumni night game this season? And the answer is no. Yeah. And to me, that was now it makes sense why there wasn't one, because look, if the alumni night game goes and they can't fly out Don Cutts, an all expenses paid vacation for Kip Brennan is where they're trimming the fat. By all means, I get it, but now like you start to see the signs of, oh God, we're not going back to the dark days, right? Like where owners are ending up in jail, and we're doing some serious cost saving measure, like we're just stuffing asbestos in the ceiling and whatever.
I mean, if anything, you would think alumni night would be a way to make money. Now they didn't have an alumni night, but they did have Brent Sutter night. So in fairness, maybe that was their thinking, was like, okay, well we'll reopen the Islanders Hall of Fame. We'll bring in Brent Sutter. That'll be our alumni night. And if so, okay, maybe that's fair. I could kind of see that. But yeah, no, I did miss out on alumni night this year. I kind of wish that. But and then we were just talking about before they came on, apparently they let go of Lenny DiCostanzo, the longtime equipment manager. The trainer, one of the trainers too, was let go. And, these are things that teams do over the course of, a season or so. And so it's not totally unusual, but again, these are like long-term people. And here we are talking about how Lou Lamoriello kept this stuff all under wraps, and so now we've had some stuff leak out in different ways. These are happening. And so this is like kind of the world we're going to live in now, where this stuff is going to get out, and it's going to get out in ways that don't look so good. And put the team in a bad light, and even kind of totally normal stuff. You have to be careful about how you message this stuff, because people are going to get mad. And I mean, shit, the Rangers were so upset that their longtime equipment manager got fired that they almost like tanked their season. Like, so this stuff matters. Like, it matters, and it matters how you message it.
As you said, like I got no idea what makes a good equipment manager, and what if these folks, what the circumstances around the decision. I did find it funny that they sent the massage therapist down to Bridgeport, and there's somebody's like, you just sent down your massage therapist. But so you feel for them as human beings, obviously, and as someone who's been through it, it's not fun. But at the same time, the way it got out was just a tweet from Ethan Sears that he's hearing that there's these changes were made, and once again, this is the team just kind of not buttoning things up and keeping the fires from getting the little fires turning into big fires. And I will say this, like, we have no idea the circumstances of Greg and Chris and how they were let go and all that, like who did it, who was in charge, who made the decision, what's etc. It does sound like it's pointing at the ownership group, obviously, but I will say that I do feel pretty confident that if the team had still employed Lou Lamoriello at the time, and maybe the writing is on the wall because it happened the day after, but I do think that if Lou was there, like, he would be like, absolutely not. Right. Lou was there for 7 years, so if they wanted to make this move in years past, it's probably Lou being like, seeing the value in it and but it's a little startling, man. It's just it's not fair to. I mean, wasn't there a thing where Chris King missed his first game a year, like maybe last season, that he had some ridiculous Iron Man streak going on the radio?
I think Greg and Corey might have had to call that game. I'm not sure.
It was something where someone will correct me when it was, or if I'm misspeaking, but that's the point, is that they did a great job. Like, this is a case where two guys who not only loved and cared about their job, but they were good at it, got let go by a bunch of really rich dudes because of some sort of shareholder spreadsheet reason, and they did it essentially did it at a mom and pop store, right? Like, I said to a couple of people, it feels like if you were in a like an upper class town on Long Island, and they were like, by the way, we're getting rid of the library, and everyone's like, what?
Right.
Why? Well, do you use the library? Not all the time, but I mean, it's a library. It's important to the community. It's the Islanders are a community. We need these things. It's a part of the fabric of the community, and it's a force for good. It's not like the library's there. It's like, oh God, there's some bad stuff happening at the library.
Right.
It's a fucking library. Like it's you. That's the very low on the list of where you'd want to cut costs. In fact,
you're supposed to have a library.
The
library is supposed to exist.
It's just there. It's just got to be there for us, know. And that's how I feel about this. It's supposed to be there. Like Greg and Chris are supposed to be there. They're supposed to be there for you when you're driving home. And I mean this with all due respect to the TV broadcast, but I don't want to turn on the car radio driving home from an Islander win and hear the TV broadcast. I want to hear the radio guys. There's something very jovial, very comforting. They're Chris King riding shotgun with you on the Parkway. I mean, it's just that's a wonderful thing that the Islanders had, and now they don't have it anymore, and it's all their fault.
Basically, I know we need to wrap this half up, but that gets to another thing too. Apparently, the Hofstra people are still going to be, the students at Hofstra are still going to be doing the simulcast, which I don't know how technology wise that works, but that's another thing too that kind of drove me nuts about the whole endeavor is that like it was seen the fact that the Islanders radio broadcast was coming out of WHRU kind of like was seen as like a bad thing, like, oh, they do this college radio. To me, that's always been kind of cool. Like, if you're a college kid and you're working on the radio station, how often are you going to get to work on a National Hockey League broadcast? That's pretty sick. I mean, the days of, use the college DJ, from midnight to 2 a.m. playing REM and all these like indie artists, that's over probably. I don't know. Maybe it is. I haven't been in college in a long time, but like that to me was always like a really cool thing that the team never once trumpeted as like, this is a cool thing we're doing. These kids are getting experience doing this, and that should have been like something that they played up as like, look, these kids are getting, I'm sure they should have been paid for it. Hopefully they were paid for it. Ideally, this would have been a fun thing for the team to be able to say, we're doing this for the students.
It's a great point, and I didn't think of it before. And you're right. And I definitely was someone who, when they announced that they were going this direction, probably had a lot of tongue-in-cheek remarks about it, and was, it's made fun of the Islanders for being minor league. But yeah, it was, now looking back on it, it is and was a good thing. Like, this is, once again, everybody knows where radio is going and knew where radio was going back then, and that this is like a sunk cost kind of thing. Right. So why not be like, oh no, we'll do something good with this. We'll work with the college that's literally across the street. Yeah. And help these students and whatever. I'm sure they turned some students into Islander fans who weren't from the area. Like, well, yeah, I became an Islander fan because I sat next to this crazy dude screaming his head off when the Islanders would beat the Flyers. And but so yeah, I mean, that the more you talk about, I mean, we could just go through this decision for hours, and the more you talk about it, the more you're like, this is so stupid. Like, it's just so stupid. It's so the Islanders. You said it last episode. It's a theme of our show, right? The Islanders are the only team in sports that are named after their fans. Like this is the Islanders, right? We don't have a say, but when you sign up to own the Islanders, you have to realize the fans have a say. It says it on the center of the ice. It says Islanders. Like, I'm an Islander. You're an Islander. John Collins is not an Islander. Right. He might become one. Like John Ledecky, all due respect, not an Islander. Like, you realize what you're signing up for. Yeah. This isn't a team in the middle of a city with 20 million people. It's not the Los Angeles Kings, right? Like, where you make a decision and you're like, oh man, I hope that the lead singer of Five for Fighting is okay with this. Like, it's you're making a decision that affects a community, a very small, tight-knit community of people who are now foaming at the mouth at you. And you now have a huge decision to make on top of that. And if you get it wrong, the foam is just going to keep curdling up. And I mean, I got the fangs out now, and I don't.
Yeah.
They didn't do it. Like they didn't make the big decision yet, and my fangs are already out, which
I mean
isn't fair. But at the same time, like they fucked this one up, so screw it.
There's normally you'd be like, well, there's a short leash. There is no leash. The leash is gone. We're off the leash.
Right. No,
like,
that's the thing. You had a short leash, and then
right. You just
the leash is gone. Yeah. It's just a shame. It's really a shame, and it's like the last like the Islanders were bleeding money, and for most of my life, and the one time they have like some deep pocketed folks in charge, they're pulling a stunt like this. Yeah. It's backwards. It's really backwards, and it kind of tells you about like how you become an owner in sports. It's like you make these kind of decisions, and you don't listen to podcast people rant about it and let them affect you. Right. Yeah, and your family owns the Empire State Building.
But that's a good point. For all the times the Islanders, I mean, even before Wong, these guys, the Milstein brothers tried to get the Islanders to get down to $15 million for a total team payroll. When Mario Lemieux was making 8 or 9, that or whatever it was, like they still had a radio broadcast,
right?
And I know that was 30 years ago, and it's a different landscape. But my point is that even if you're going to move away from a traditional radio broadcast, because again, it's 2025, we all kind of understand that these two guys are incredibly valuable assets for your team. Nobody knows this team better than they do. Nobody loves this team more than they do. And I know that people listening to this are going to. We all do. I get it. But like these guys have lived, ate, slept, and breathed this team in a way that we have not for a very, very, very long time. Okay, so Greg gets 2 varies and Kinger gets 5 varies, right? But either way, there's a lot of time invested in these two guys, and they know this team, and they bleed this team. To just let them walk through the door that's just poor management, poor asset management. Give these guys something. You could find something to do. Make Kinger his team historian. Like I said, have him doing YouTube videos and interviews and historical retrospectives and doing stuff with Stan Fischler or whoever. Like, why not? This guy knows this team. You don't have to teach him anything. He's just going to show up and know everything already. And then Greg, again, he's already doing your podcast for your team. Give him another one. Give him 2 more. Who cares? Like, he knows what to do. It's crazy that they would just be let go.
And this is like the president of Hockey Ops conversation too. He comes in, right, and we're talking about having somebody around that is connected to the team because, like, let's say this decision was made 2 years from now when, let's just say, it was Kenny Holland and Peter Chiarelli were like the 1-2 punch. They're like, why the hell are people so mad? I want someone in charge who will understand why people are so mad about this. Yes. Like, and that's what this screams to me, that the person and the group that made this decision were probably like, whoa, can someone explain to me like why nobody's they're not like why is it like PR Newswire celebrating that we just saved X amount of money, and instead we got like Johnny from Massapequa is screaming into his phone like while he's driving his car on the Bethpage Parkway, like why is this happening? Well, you should have known that because you own the team that these fans root for, and you've owned it for a long time, so you should understand why this decision was going to be met with. I wonder what fans from outside the island think when they look at this. They're like, "Well, Islander fans it's kind of like Tavares, like they're going to be throwing snakes at John Collins, or they're going to be throwing some stuff like that's what the blowback kind of reminded me of it. Like that first couple hours, it was
just a bad look. It's a bad look. And like, the thing is like, other people outside of the Islanders world, probably heard Chris King call, a couple of times a year on some clip or whatever. And we're like, oh my God, what's the deal with this guy? But like, I think they just got used to it. And even if you haven't, even if you've never heard Chris King in a million years, when you find out that the team has let go of its radio broadcast that they've had for over 30 years, it's a bad look. Right? Like, well, I listen to if I watch Red Wings games, do I think Mickey Redmond does a great job? Frankly, no. But Mickey Redmond has been there forever. Like, right? Like, he's been doing Red Wings games forever. I'm not going to say, oh, good thing they fired Ricky. They got to get rid of this guy. Like, no, he's an institution there. We've been stumping for Butch Goring forever. And people are like, oh, what's Butch doing here? What's his role? His role is to be Butch Goring. Right. That's the only role he needs to have. I don't give a shit what he's doing. He's Butch Goring. I mean, again, before him was Chico Resch. I would never have told a Devils fan, oh, I got to get rid of Chico. What's he doing up there? He doesn't always talk about it. Dude, he's Chico Resch. Yeah. He showed up here in New Jersey when they did. Like, that's his job, is to be Chico Resch. So I don't know. And now we're off topic, but we're going to take a break.
No, I think it's on top. I think you're right. Like it makes sense. Like exactly it. Like Chris King's job was to be Chris King, and Greg Picker's job was to be Greg Picker.
Right.
And they did a fantastic job at doing exactly that.
Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of like Steve Summers on The Fan. Like Steve Summers, a freaking weird guy. It's a weird, very strange listening experience. Right. But if you got it, you're like, this is the best. And it just became a part of the zeitgeist of New York City and New York area of just driving around. If you're in your car for some reason at 2 a.m, you'd hear this crazy guy calling Nassau Coliseum the Nassau Mausoleum. And in the biggest sports market in the world, somebody saw value in that kind of personality and that kind of kitsch.
Yeah.
And sports is going so far in the wrong direction where they're trying to suck all the kitsch out of TV broadcasts and just broadcasts in general. And this is just another step in that direction. It's an absolute shame. And I really, 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 really hope that there's been a lot of talk about we need to fucking make this right, because they do. Right. Like you have to make you make it right, please. Like just it's a stupid thing, completely unforced error. Right. I guess we should just stop now because I could keep going and keep being mad.
I think we've made our feelings real, but no, you put it perfectly. This is just the unkitschifying of sports is really not great, and it needs to stop because that's what we're on this for, right? Okay, we are going to actually take our break now. We're going to come back on the other side and do what we do best, which is make fun of other Metropolitan Division teams and what they're doing with their off seasons, which has been a lot of fun too over the last couple of days. So join us on the other side. Thanks. And now a word from our sponsors. First is always VintageIceHockey.com, where you can get t-shirts, hoodies, jerseys, and more featuring over 100 classic hockey logos. Vintage Ice Hockey now carries a full line of Islanders Anxiety merch featuring our blue and orange brain logo, as well as our Al Arbor and the Island shirts. And as always, our portion of the sales go directly to the Center for Dementia Research. That is VintageIceHockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project. They offer a Rosé, a Pinot Grigio, and a Pinot Noir that was named a Top 100 Best Buy by Wine Enthusiast magazine. All are delicious, priced at less than $15 a bottle, and available at local wine shops and at UBS Arena. Learn more at thepinotproject.com. Please drink responsibly.
Move your career further, faster in just 2 days with a Harvard Professional and Executive Development Program. Advance your leadership skills, craft smarter business strategies, build your network, and transform how you work and think to keep your career moving forward. You'll earn a certificate and can add Harvard to your resume with Harvard Professional and Executive Development. Learn more at professional.dce.harvard.edu/Spotify.
So the Islanders aren't playing, but I will use this time to reveal our schedule for the week. Like I said, we got a lot going on over at the Patreon. Obviously, this episode is coming out today on Tuesday. On Monday, I put out Dan's Islanders Book Club for this month about a very recent book that you all know is out. And if you haven't bought it, you should. I might as well just spoil it. It's about the Ken Morrow book, Miracle Gold and Lifetime of Islanders Hockey. It's a great book, and you should all check it out. I wrote all about that at the Patreon. On Wednesday, we're going to be putting out our next episode of Country Club Atmosphere, our non-hockey podcast. We're going to be recording that tomorrow. And then on Friday, we have a brand new episode of Weird Islanders, the podcast. Now, I understand that not everybody listens to Weird Islanders, the podcast. I see the download numbers, and I get that. It's fine. It's a niche show. Not everybody's into it. I promise you are going to want to listen to this Friday's episode of Weird Islanders, the podcast. If you only listen to one, make it this one because, we're not the type to like sort of toot our own horns about this kind of stuff. This is probably the best episode we've ever done. And I was so proud of it that I actually had to like take a step back and kind of collect myself a little bit while I was editing because it came out really, really great. It actually is ironic because we spend most of our time talking about a player who is maybe the least weird Islander of all time, both on the ice and off. This man is almost incredibly normal, too normal for the Islanders in a lot of ways, but we do find a couple legit weird Islanders to talk about in there. The guest is fantastic. It comes out again on Friday. please listen to it. I'm begging you. You're really going to enjoy it. If this is the only one you listen to, please do, because it came out really, really great. So Weird Islanders podcast on Friday. Check it out. I won't reveal too much. I've already said too much. But you're going to, no matter where you are in Islanders history, no matter what you think of Weird Islanders podcast and whether or not we, it's a little bit too weird for you, this is not that weird. It's great. And I can't wait for people to hear it. Okay. So as I've been teasing, the Metro Division has been busy. Rangers fired their coach. Penguins today fired their coach. Flyers clearly waiting on Vancouver to fire their coach. The Caps and Devils and Hurricanes are still playing. Caps are playing well. The Devils, not so much. And their coach, he has a couple of fun things to say. Maybe he might be looking for new work at the end of the year too. So congrats to the Columbus Blue Jackets for being, the most stable team in the Metro right now in a way. Do we want to start with the Penguins? Do we want to start with the Rangers? Do we want to start with the Flyers? I guess really aren't much of a thing. We can get to them in a little bit, but you want to start with the Rangers or the Penguins, who made the most recent news in firing Mike Sullivan today?
Let's start with the Rangers, because I think it's a good bridge from what we were kind of talking about at the beginning of the show. And so to me, they fired their coach, and then they not only they fired their coach, but then they made the decision to announce an extension to the general manager, who everybody in that locker room seems to just despise. And I think it's just been a real breath of. I was talking about like PTSD from Islander dark years. Ranger fans are feeling the same way. They're feeling like the 2003 vibes coming hard, because look, the Rangers have been successful in the regular season for a long time now. They've basically been making the playoffs every year. Like they'll miss the playoffs on average like once every 6 or 7 years since that first lockout. Right. They've had Henrik Lundqvist. They've got Igor. They've been to 2 Eastern Conference Finals in 4 seasons. The other 2 years that they didn't make it, they fired their coach, which is hilarious. But as we talk about a lot about the younger generation of Islander fans maybe not understanding just how weird shit was before Lou and Barry and the current ownership group in the new arena, I think there's a crop of Ranger fans who have no idea of what the Rangers' plight was in the early part of the aughts, and it feels like we, knock on wood, we might be heading that way with the way that the owner is handling things, the way the GM is handling things.
You mean to the like early 2000s, 7 missed playoffs in a row Rangers?
Yes,
that kind of
feels like we could be heading that way, and that would be wonderful.
That would be wonderful.
It's just because it feels like nobody wants to play for this guy, and it's so funny that it's the GM, it's not the coach. Usually when nobody wants to play for someone, they're like, yeah, he doesn't want to play for Torts. Yeah, no, he has got no problem with Peter Laviolette. He doesn't want to play for the GM who fired his buddy, the longtime equipment manager or the longtime trainer, and then traded or blackmailed the Sharks into getting Barclay Goodrow, and then doxed his captain's wife and traded him, and it's that guy. And one of there's so much to love here, and one of my favorite ripple effects from the Rangers breakout day post season kind of stories coming out is that the players were all like, yeah, things got really weird, we didn't pick ourselves back up. And there's a lot of folks in hockey chart Twitter who are like, these guys tanked the season because they were mad about their friends getting traded. What? Get a grip. And I'm like, yeah, dude. They don't like their boss. If you didn't like your boss, would you work hard at work? No. Right. That's how it goes. That's just part of life. And it's just so funny to watch these, the chart slingers not understand. They're breaking and now I don't understand how to evaluate Mika Zibanejad's season on my chart because I might have to draw a line through it because he was playing mad. It's outrageous.
This was the season, and we can loop in another Metro team here. This was the season where, I don't know, maybe it's my mental state that's changing, or maybe it's the leagues or the way it's messaged, but I don't remember a season in which more players sort of comfort and like well-being with their teammates and surroundings have come into play so much. The Rangers thing is obviously front and center. They went into a swoon for 3 months because their captain got traded, basically, right? Or 2 months or something like that. And it's like, guys get traded, and you don't want to sound cold about this because I wouldn't want to get traded for my job, but like, I'm not a professional athlete. Like, you kind of understand that this is sort of how it goes. Then there was the whole Mikko Rantanen thing where he ends up in Carolina and it's not working out. And every day some other insider is like, well, this really took him by surprise. He was really shocked about this. Really? He played hardball in a contract negotiation and got traded because he had no protection and he's shocked? Really?
Yeah.
Like, dude, do you know what you do for a living? Like, again, it sucks, but that's just part of the gig, man. Like, I don't remember a season where this kind of stuff came up as often as it did this year. It's like, oh, he got traded and the whole team is upset. Really? Like, okay, I guess. I mean, there have been trades before. I mean, the Islanders traded Ziggy Palffy and they stunk, but I don't know if they were upset that he got traded. I mean, if anything, they were probably happy for him that he got traded someplace else. But that's probably a bad example. Yes. But yeah, it was weird. The whole thing is very weird. But yeah, like you said, firing Laviolette after, a missed playoff, this is what the Rangers do, right? They bring in a coach, they immediately go to the conference final. The next season is terrible, and they fire the guy. They've been doing this now for a couple of years in a row. So, I mean, I don't think anybody was really that surprised. But when they re-upped Chris Drury the next day,
oh, so good.
Oh, it was amazing. It was what? that was the exact opposite of the sort of Chris King, Greg Picker news, and everybody is like, "This is great," and the Rangers fans are like, "What? This is terrible." So it was pretty funny. So yeah, I don't know. Here's my thing. If imagine as a kid, I did not play youth sports. Maybe you did. Imagine you won a Little League World Series. Like, you're on this magical quest and you won this Little League World Series as a, 13, 14-year-old kid, whatever. And imagine that was your ticket to a life free of consequences. You can do whatever you want in your job, and it's okay because you won a Little League World Series one time. I mean, not that Chris Drury wasn't a good player. He was a very good player. But like, what are we still clinging to here exactly as a general manager? Is some kind of success that I'm not aware of? I don't know.
It's that well, this is the best part of the whole thing. It's that it's so clearly obvious that this is just James Dolan saying to the entire world, "Oh, I've got a yes man."
Yeah. Like,
this is a yes. We've got a yes man here. He's got no problem everyone knowing he's a yes man. There's nothing about that. It's not like the last guys where I would try to get involved and they'd be like, "No, we're in charge here," and Glenn Sather would have to hold me back. Glenn Sather isn't here, and now I've got this guy who I say do this, and he says yes sir, and that's about it. And one of the kind of hilarious subplots here is that, I mean, can you remember maybe the biggest goal of Chris Drury's career?
No. Was it for the Avalanche?
No, well, maybe he scored one for them in like the Cup final that I'm not thinking of. But when Chris Drury was the captain of the Buffalo Sabres,
right? Yeah,
he scored with 6 seconds left to tie a game against the Rangers in that playoff series where the Sabres had a couple of really big, late goals and ended up beating the Rangers. Thankfully, I think it was I think that was 06-07, right? It was the same year that the Islanders, because then he immediately joined the Rangers where he was a disappointment. So this isn't a Rangers icon, like a Rangers hero. This is a guy who scored a huge goal and beat the Rangers in the playoffs. After spending the first half of his career in the West, then he beats the Rangers in the playoffs. Then he gets a huge contract from the Rangers and plays 4 very mediocre seasons to the point where they bought him out, right? 2011, he was terrible that year. They bought him out, and I think it was, a pretty unhappy ending, obviously, for him. I don't think he was thrilled with how he was treated. So not like it'd be like the Islanders doing this with Brian Ralston or someone, right? It feels like or maybe Bill Guerin would be a better example, right? There was no real ties to the organization before that. In fact, I think most Ranger fans would be like, it wasn't, I'm not a huge Drury guy. He just was overpaid and didn't really do much. So, that's the hilarious part here too. It's like
this would be like if the Rangers GM was Scott Gomez.
Yeah,
like,
yes.
Or Bobby Holik, It'd
Right.
be like, yeah, he signed here, or John McClane. Yeah, he signed here. He was here for a few years and then he was gone. Like that's it. So
and it's so that's part of it. That's one part that doesn't ever get talked about, because I feel like when people talk about Chris Drury, like, well, he's a Ranger. Are you sure, bud?
I mean, he spent more time in Colorado, and his best years were easily with Buffalo. I mean, like it's not even close. Like,
he was really good with the Sabres. Like him and Briere and Vanek and Fenegenov, like those teams were really good. And they beat the Rangers that one series. I remember Ryan Miller being really good. They had I think a couple overtime wins. I think that was the famous series when Fenegenov had that crazy celebration at center ice as well. So not really a Ranger, and he gets this extension, and everyone was all the fans were pissed. It was good to see that happen. So it's been we've been waiting a really long time for a season like this from the Rangers. One where they did have those seasons when they sent out the letter and missed the playoffs, but those were by design. It's been so long since the Rangers had a season in which they had high expectations and like completely bottomed out.
Fell apart,
So it was. I mean, if we had to give up the Islanders making the playoffs to get here, so be it. But it would have been more enjoyable had the Islanders had some success. But it was fun to watch that train wreck. I mean, that losing streak in November was just amazing. It was just so funny. So yeah, man, and thank God for the Florida Panthers last year, because this wouldn't feel anywhere as good if the Panthers didn't get in their way. So Vladimir Tarasenko, Anton Lundell, and the boys, Paul Maurice, we do thank you.
Always, just like we always thank Adam Henrique as well. Always, forever. But that leads us to today's news, which is obviously the Rangers have a coaching opening now, and there is a new coach on the market, and it's Mike Sullivan, who was let go by the Penguins today. Mike Sullivan obviously won 2 cups with the Penguins. He's their winningest coach ever in both the regular season and playoffs, which is kind of funny since I can remember when they hired him, and Penguins have had a pretty spotty record with coaches, to be honest with you. What's funny about this is that, listen, we have no particular love for the Penguins. Obviously, we hate the Penguins. We have a great deal of respect for Mike Sullivan. He's a good coach. But this is a team that has missed the playoffs 3 years in a row. They have not been out of the first round since 2018, where they lost the Capitals on their way to their Stanley Cup. And the way the Pittsburgh media is sort of framing this exit, firing, whatever you want to call it, is, well, Dubas and Mike Sullivan are still friends. It was all amicable. It was just time to go. There's no animosity here. They didn't, Dubas called Sidney Crosby and said, hey, we're going to do this. And they flew to Boston and talked to Mike Sullivan. Guys, you don't need any other reason other than we missed the playoffs 3 years in a row. I don't understand why they're bending over backwards. Everybody knows Mike Sullivan's a good coach. Everybody knows the Penguins are kind of a weird walking disaster right now. You don't need to get into a whole thing. Say, Mike, thank you for everything. We're going in a different direction. And he goes, okay. And he leaves, and he's probably going to get, hired by the Rangers, probably by the time you're done hearing this. The way they're bending over back. I mean, obviously this shouldn't come as no shock to anybody, but it's this whole thing here. Dubas explains amicable Mike Sullivan Penguin split. Yeah, you missed the playoffs 3 years in a row and you haven't been out of the first round since 2018. That's a pretty good reason. I don't understand why we need to make sure everybody's friends here. We're all friends. Nobody put in the paper that we're not friends. We're all friends. Just want to make sure that everybody knows that the Penguins are friends. This isn't I don't think I don't think he's going to get booed when he comes back or anything like that. That'd be stupid, right?
Oh my God.
Anyway, but
it's incredible. Yeah. It's so if you just go to the Athletic Penguins page right now,
it's amazing. It's amazing.
Just, you don't even have to read any of the articles.
Right.
You just have to read the headlines and the little subhead. And the right now the feature story is Kyle Dubas explains amicable Mike Sullivan's Penguin split. Subhead, Dubas, : sometimes the class needs a new professor. Sometimes the professor needs a new class. Wow, Kyle.
Right.
Good one, bud. Did you just explain the logic behind firing a head coach in the NHL? man, I just thought that we were just going out there and one day just deciding, rolling dice and being like, all right, you're fired. Like, what? It's so good. No one is to blame for the Penguins, Mike Sullivan.
Oh, that was the other one. Yeah,
I would say blame. Yeah, I would say maybe everybody's to blame.
Yeah, right.
I would say no one is the wrong word.
You missed the playoffs 3 years in a row. Somebody's to blame.
Yeah,
and I don't know who.
And I don't know if Kyle Dubas is going to fire himself. He's done it before. Right. He has done it before, but this time he maybe he's learned from that. But the press conference, I only watched like the first 10-15 seconds of it at first, like go around because it was just so funny. Mark Madden, I believe his name is, from Pittsburgh, asked Kyle Dubas because of course this is like the funniest part about anything that happens with the Penguins, any decision that's made, is the first question that gets asked is, "Did you run this one by Sid?"
Yeah.
Hey Jack, did you run this one by John Tavares? Hey Scott, did you run this one by Mark Streit? Like, and I get it. Like I know that those are stretches, but it's just so funny that it's not that the question gets asked. It's just how quickly and how like understood that it is that question will be asked first. Right. With anything, the Penguins are signing a new deal with Quiznos to be a sponsor on their jersey. Well, did they run that one by Sid?
Yeah.
What?
True. It's true. I know.
What? It makes no sense to me. It makes it well. Right. That's not true. It makes a ton of sense to me why people would think what it makes a lot of sense to me that why Kyle Dubas would do that, because Sidney Crosby is the captain. What doesn't make a lot of sense to me is that it's always the first question about every decision in Pittsburgh is, hey, just making sure, did you run that one? Was he gonna say no?
Yeah, right. I mean, Sidney Crosby's not stupid. Like, he gets it. But I mean, for some reason, he wants to keep playing in Pittsburgh. He could have been traded to Colorado, right? Or wherever, and he'd rather play in Pittsburgh. And the whole thing is because him and Malkin, and forgetting Malkin, and Chris Letang are very tight with Sullivan and stuff. But like, I don't think these guys have to be explained to like they're babies why you let Sullivan go. I think they get it. I mean, they're riding out the end of their careers, and they're going to have another coach. It's okay. I mean, if anything, hiring the new coach, you might want to run past them. But I think firing Sullivan, we get. I mean, he had a long run there. He was the second longest tenured coach in the NHL behind John Cooper.
Yeah.
And both of them have the same amount of cups. So it's like, it's pretty important. But dude, 3 years, I said this when we talked about Lou last week. You can't have 3 or 4 seasons in a row like this and expect to keep your job. Like, nobody would let this. I mean, the reason Mike Milbury kept his job throughout all those years is because there was literally no owner. There was no owner to say this is not acceptable and fire him. Like, if there's an owner who's kind of sort of paying attention, you can't keep just trotting out the same guy after 4 years or 3 years and expect, everybody's going to be cool with that. So even if it's Mike Sullivan, even if it's a guy who's a good coach and a 2-time cup winner, it ain't happening. So again, I expect him to end up with the Rangers. Maybe the Bruins, I guess, are an outside chance. I still can't believe Charlie McAvoy is his son-in-law.
I know.
So, like, on one hand, you're like, oh, it's his son-in-law. On the other hand, you're like, dude, I wouldn't want my father-in-law being my coach. Like, no. Like, what are you, nuts? So that would be a little bit weird.
And who knows? Like, maybe some of these coaches, like we were joking about Sheldon Keefe, like calling out his GM, and of course it happens like the same day that this starts to trickle out that Sheldon Keefe is getting snippy with his GM. He's like, yeah, well, I hear my best buddy over there is looking for a coach. Maybe I can get myself fired here quickly. Oh my God. Rejoin Kyle.
Yeah. That would be hilarious.
It would be so good. And to put the Rangers and Penguins thing together is one thing I am hoping here, and of course, the Rangers getting to coach New York at Madison Square Garden. I'm sure these guys all love that.
The mecca of sports. Yeah.
World's most famous arena. I'm sure that people would, whatever, they see the value in that. But the one thing I am hoping here is that these guys are like, holy shit, what the hell's going on over there?
Right.
And I don't want to work for either of those guys. So I'll take a different job, and if things settle down, maybe a few years that things will line up. So that's my hope here. I also hope that maybe one or two of these teams in the first round decide to move on. I just want it to be as wide a scope for Sullivan to choose from, because I don't want him. I don't want the Rangers to get him.
I mean, even if they got him, their team is still cooked. And even honestly, again, this is the Rangers pattern. They could hire a mannequin to be their coach, and they're going to go to the conference finals next year. It's just how it works.
Yeah, it's
but,
going to be. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
Look at what Sullivan did with this Penguins team that Woodley obviously isn't very good. They have Igor Shesterkin, the Rangers. That's really the big difference there. So, but as I mentioned before, there is another team in the Metro that has a coach. I guess interim coach is Brad Shaw, former Islanders interim coach, Flyers interim coach Brad Shaw. And it's very obvious to, I think, everybody with a pair of eyes that they're waiting for whatever Vancouver does with Rick Tocchet, who still has not signed an extension there. And what I find to be very funny about this, and Tocchet's name has obviously been linked to the Penguins. He played for both the Penguins and Flyers. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets linked to the Rangers at some point too. What's funny about all the Tocchet rumors is that people are starting to wake up to the fact that Rick Tocchet is really not that good a coach. What Rick Tocchet's great sort of superpower is as a coach is that the media guys love him. He was on TNT. He said absolutely nothing of interest in whatever it was, 2 seasons on TNT. He loves talking to media guys. And so they love him. And it doesn't matter that his only good season as a coach between Phoenix, Tampa, and Vancouver was one in which Thatcher Demko was a Vezina candidate, right? Wasn't he a finalist last year, Thatcher Demko? That's a little bit suspect when your one good coaching season comes at the time when your goalie has the best season of his career, and the poor guy hasn't been healthy all season. So, he emptied the tank at that time. So I do find it very funny that I've seen Flyers fans be like, yeah, Rick Tocchet is linked to the Flyers. Wait, is that good? And the consensus is no, not really. Not, if it's the same team with just Rick Tocchet, I don't know. That's, if that's going to happen. There was a rumor, by the way, that John Tortorella might be going back to the Rangers. I actually kind of thought that I kind of bought that for a second. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that happened, but same thing. Is this good? I don't think so. So I don't know. We'll see. Poor Brad Shaw, man, keeps getting these interim jobs.
I know.
And he can't land the big one. It's crazy.
and it's sad because what's the difference between, as you said, Rick Tocchet coaching that team with that roster and Brad Shaw coaching it.
Right.
I don't really know if there is one, but
yeah,
it's the Flyers are getting to the status of they've had a couple pretty bad seasons now in a row, and they're getting to that weird status among hockey media where people are they're committed to the vision. This Randy Jones and Danny Briere, they have a plan. They're not going to waver from it.
Keith Jones,
right? Yeah, Keith Jones.
I was going to say again, another guy who just likes talking to media guys,
right?
So
right, because he was one,
right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course. Why wouldn't I pick up this call from?
Sure.
But Keith and Danny Briere, yeah, they've got a plan. They're sticking to it. They might be sellers and buyers at the trade deadline. They only want to acquire young players with term because their vision is on the future. They're doing okay, but they want to make sure that they have that in mind. Well, I mean, it's been 3 years of that, but these guys get a pass for that all the time now. They're just going to the Flyers are just going to get a pass that this is the rebuild, and the rebuild will take as long as it can until they're good again. And that could be 10 years from now. And the kind of narrative around the team will be this is the vision. They're bought in. The Flyers are on board with this vision. And I'm starting to feel like this could end up as if this could end up like the Sabres a little while, in a little bit. This is just the Flyers could be in this weird cycle of suck that the Sabres are in, because if you do go this direction, it's going to be really hard to get out of it, because most of the other teams aren't doing this. There's 32 teams in the NHL, and 6 of them are going to be really shitty like this, and the other 26 are just going to beat the crap out of you for the entire season, right?
And they won't feel bad about it.
And they won't, yeah, exactly. And they don't show up. The Colorado Avalanche don't show up in Philadelphia guys, we got to take it easy on these. They're committed to this vision. We don't want them to pick on us in 7 or 8 years when these guys are good.
Right.
And they're going to be a wagon at 6 years. Oh yeah, really? How's that working out for Buffalo and Anaheim and Detroit and
right.
and all those other wagons from the future?
If Ottawa's going to become a wagon, please start on Tuesday night. I would really, really like to see that happen. But as of right now, these teams. I don't know if the Flyers are going to go down that route. But it looks like they are just kind of in limbo right now. I don't know what they're, again, the Flyers used to be a really easy team to peg. Oh, who's going to be the most expensive free agent? Oh, that guy's going to the Flyers. Like there's no, that all-star is available. Yeah, he's going to end up going to the Flyers.
That goalie just got red hot for like 47 games.
Right.
And now he's going to get an $80 million contract.
Yeah.
He's going to be the Flyers goalie.
Oh, that guy who scored 40 goals 5 years ago is turning 35. Yeah, he's going to be a Flyer.
Yeah.
Right? Like that. It was very easy. I mean, they operated like that for 50 years. And now I just don't know what they are. And
now they've got a vision. They've got a vision. That's all you need to know about each team, right?
Right.
The Flyers have Danny Briere has a vision for this thing. Pat Verbeek is a tough negotiator. He's gonna really grind you to get everything. Right. Steve Yzerman won't talk to me.
Also has a vision and a plan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's
I know everybody's out there, and the Islanders don't have a general manager or president.
No, they don't.
It's or radio.
They sort of have a coach.
Either. Yeah,
they sort of have a coach. We don't know.
We have not talked about. Maybe next time we'll talk about the Patrick Waugh aspect of this whole thing, but we've kind of been ignoring him this whole time because he has a job. I mean, he's got a job. He's got a contract, so he's here still. But once a new GM comes in or president comes in, that might change. So we have talked a lot. It's been good. It's been good to talk about this kind of stuff, get it off our chest, because there's been a lot to talk about. In a week in which nothing really happened, a lot happened. And so it was good to get it out there. We'll be back next week. We're going to talk again on Sunday. For now, the plan is on Sunday. It is my daughter's birthday that weekend. Happy birthday to you, by the way. Yesterday was your birthday.
That's right. Yeah, thank you.
Sunday, I should say, was your birthday. So the plan is to record on Sunday again and put it out. And then, like I said, Weird Islanders podcast this Friday. Please check it out. You're really going to love it. Again, we talk about a guy who is not weird, a actual decorated longtime Islander. But we do get some weird guys in there as well. So you'll want to read it. You'll want to listen to it. Country Club Atmosphere on Wednesday. Book Club is already up there. So check that out as well. Become a patron, patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety. Find us on Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube, all those places. Our theme song is Morning Haze by Family Dinner. Listen to more of their music on Spotify. Read Lighthouse Hockey every single day for your most up-to-date Islanders news and discussion. Islanders Anxiety podcasts are part of the Fans First Sports Network. Shop VintageIceHockey.com. Try Wines in the Pinot Project. Get yourself a Pat LaFontaine bobblehead from Foco.com before he becomes the Islanders president. You heard it here first. Mike, where can everybody find you on Twitter?
The Big Lebowski with 2 E's.
Follow Mike at the Big Lebowski. Wish him a happy birthday a couple of days late. Any final thoughts on GMs, presidents, radio, Penguins, Rangers, coaches, Bradshaw? Poor Bradshaw.
I know.
This is going to happen. This guy waited 15 years to get another shot at this. He's probably going to lose out to another guy.
No, I mean, the last thing I'd say is that this should have been a fun week to poke fun and enjoy, some good old fashioned Schadenfreude. But the Islanders kind of just threw a dark cloud over it, and I hope that they find a way to make it right, and quickly. But
well, not too quickly. But yeah, we don't want to. I mean, by the end of this month, somebody will be in place. I mean, because there's going to be a lottery and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I don't think they can't wait too long. Maybe by the time we record next week, we'll be a day or two out from it. But we'll see. But that being said, we've got to find the right person. Please make sure they're the right person. And no matter who you're interviewing. But it's good to see some new names out there, and hopefully not much else. Just do your business and get it done and pick the right person. Okay. Thanks a lot. We will talk to you again soon. Take care and enjoy the week. All right. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.